As the years have gone by, we've slowly come to expect a little bit more from the horror genre than just saving ammunition. I mean, as of late, it's even been bleeding into platformers. But as much as I do love the linear, atmospheric experiences that can come from a game like Little Nightmares or Inside, I have found myself hoping that I'll start to see fully 3D, more open-ended stuff pop up. I just want a game that can play like Spyro or Mario or something like that, but could also carry every bit of atmosphere you'd expect from a Silent Hill game. To explore these kinds of environments with this kind of gameplay. I suppose that would be kind of unconventional, but, you know, I also think that Animal Crossing would be way better if it had survival horror gameplay. I want to go out into a terrifying world and barely survive with tank controls and terrible combat and then come home to my Animal Crossing casual gameplay. But, you know, like, that is such a specifically me idea that it's like, what company would ever make that? Like, who other than me would ever buy that? Right now, the only place you're really going to find that kind of experimental content is in indie games, and I'm not talking about the ones you'll find on Steam either. I find a lot of these on Twitter, but itch.io is where you really want to look for this sort of thing, and one I found recently that looked extremely me is this cute little horror platformer made in Godot or Godot or whatever called Cat World. Desktop Trash is the developer here. I stumbled upon this tweet from them recently which described the game as a surreal 3D platformer expressing some stuff I think is important. Now, if there's two things I love to break down, it is 3D platformers and the interesting themes that come with horror games, so I thought it sounded up my alley. It's not like a huge indie project or anything like that, it's just a small demo put together by somebody who just enjoys making games in their spare time, so like, I don't know if this is planned to be like a big finished release put up for sale or anything like that, but the demo did really catch my eye. I thought it looked really freaking cool, so I figured, hey, why don't we check it out, see what's going on here. The title screen coldly greets us to a grimy balcony. The name of the game chopped up and slapped down with a cute little green cat standing on the edge. We got pointy ears, big eyes, and a rigid expression that conveys a complacent apathy. So, you know, naturally we start looking around and wow, in every single direction as far as the eye can see, identical looking balconies stretching into infinity. We are one of many. So why don't we go inside and take a look around our apartment here, our little slice of the pie, and wow, this is all pretty freaking cool looking. It doesn't go full on PS1, you know, the textures are a little bit more detailed, and we do have that delicious widescreen here as well, but it does harness the low poly, low res look that you'd expect from the era. And I really love it. The textures are clear enough to convey all of the rot and decay and grime that the environments carry, while preserving the simple and distorted look that has your brain interpreting ooky spooky things from that lack of clarity. And there's some modern techniques blended in there too, like the way light reflects off of the water. God, does it ever look cool as hell. I remember Anodyne 2 doing that a lot as well, and I always thought it was a really great look. Not much for a moveset here though, it's just a simple jump and that's it. You're not gonna be doing any wacky maneuvers here or anything, but the controls are good. I never had any problems landing where I wanted to or anything like that. As far as other actions go, you can also interact with stuff with the circle button, if you're using a PlayStation controller that is, which, come on, you gotta. And you can also pick stuff up, like keys and lanterns for lighting the way. And finally, the L1 button will make you walk slowly. You'll need this for all the sneaking around you're gonna be doing. Yeah, there's a lot of stealth involved here. After you head to bed, we then wake up in a jail cell. The old grind got us down, it seems. Just outside the cell, there's these bizarre cat-like phantoms gently floating through their patrol paths. They look kinda like you, but quite a bit different. Maybe they used to be like us? Perhaps the taste of authority distorted them into monsters. You'll sneak by these guys by keeping on your tippy toes whenever they're close and hiding behind any objects you can find in the room, like boxes or more boxes. Some areas will have you carrying around a lantern, which you'll have to extinguish anytime they look in your direction, battling the need for the light that assures you don't take any missteps. This area was actually quite a bit different in an earlier version I played last week. There actually wasn't much reason to just like not leave the light off. Once you got a basic layout of the really simple hallways here, there wasn't really anything here that was going to trip you up in the dark. However, in version 0.3, the one I'm playing here for this video, they made all of these spots where you can fall in if you don't have the light on. I thought it added some much needed challenge to the sewer segment here. So if one of those phantoms sees you, you're probably as good as dead. They're gonna rush and slash the video signal right out of you, turning you into this static-filled shell of your former self. Sometimes you will be able to scamper off into like a little hole or vent or something before they can get to you. There's all these tunnels that lead to these strange rooms filled with cat statues, bizarre writing scrawled all over, and sometimes even a fellow victim. Many of these rooms will hide some sort of switch. You'll have to sneak around, find them all, and open the door to advance. That's usually the sort of thing you're doing here, and it's pretty tense. The sounds they emit as they chase you, barely making it to safety, and watching them lose track of you in the distance. Now, I can see some people getting a bit impatient with all of this, you know, just by proxy, the fact that stealth can be somewhat patience testing, especially if you end up dying over and over and you have to repeat the level a lot. But for what it's worth, I found the rules of the stealth mechanics pretty easy to learn, you know, like it wasn't too hard to figure out how far away can they be before they stop hearing you run, and where their cones of vision are, you know, stuff like that. I got a feel for it all pretty quickly, and I did find myself having a lot of fun with it. After sneaking through enough corridors, we'll eventually stumble upon this incredibly foreboding chamber. Well shit, I think that's them. The powerful. The ones who rule us all. Know your place. Do your part. And one day, you just might become one of us. Yeah, you can't fool me, bud. I know that's just a hollow promise you used to dangle a carrot in front of all the factory's gears. I literally beat every single Jimmy Neutron game. You are not smarter than me. After that, we're then dropped into the game's hub world, or what I guess what's gonna be the game's hub world. I would imagine this is where the game really starts off, but here, it's the end of the demo. There's no way you can progress past this point, but we can explore all around and see what we can find here. You got a bunch of items scattered around, including depressants and stimulants, and cultural artifacts like this sock. All those things that made you happy are now a total rarity. There's even a pair of wings you can find up here in the graveyard. I don't know why video games always hide the best shit in graveyards, but these will let you flutter a couple of times then hover. You can use this to make your way to some of the harder to get to areas, and they're really cool to explore. Most of these are going to be entrances to other levels, which means there's nothing you can really do with them right now, but they're still really cool to go up to and look all around. What do we got up here? The playground. Is that a DS? Oh no, it's a Dream Architect. I see. I think we got a fellow Pikmin fan here. I really love this hub area, man. Like, there's just something about dilapidated parkades and busted up downtown infrastructure that just gets me excited to go exploring and see what sort of things I can find. It's about time I get to do this in a platformer. I mean, Infamous is kind of close, but you know what I mean. Up here, we got some obstacles. They're these big rotating blocks. Getting a timing right with a glide is actually kind of challenging. The moveset is really simple here, so there's not a whole lot of ways you can really respond to the level design, so it'll be interesting seeing what sorts of obstacles other than just the stealth that they come up with here. But if there's anything I'd really love to see more of, though, it's definitely the exploration, because, you know, the reason I'm so in love with this game to begin with is because it's giving me a way to explore some of my favorite settings and aesthetics through gameplay that I really love. It'd be really cool to see more areas with lots of disturbing scenery, or maybe even some scares. That would be cool. Maybe you could find clues that give you hints about what's going on in the world. That would be really fun to look for. As it stands, though, there is quite a bit you can find here, even in just the demo version. If you really explore around, you can even find the secret rave party. Hey guys, what's going on? What's good?
We will die dancing in the rotted corpse of the world! Amen, brother.
And yes, that is precisely the song you think it is. It's just a placeholder. It's a demo. I thought it was funny too. So, as a lot of you can probably tell by now, much of the game's horror is etched into the themes here. Like, you know, it's not so much the CRT cats that are scary as much as it's the implications that they can carry. I think there's a reason some people find low poly stuff creepy and some people don't. You know, it's a bit of a Rorschach test. I think different people do see different things. Like, it's literally just the same model but stretched out with a cape added and its textures changed. You couldn't get any more simple. But I think it is that simplicity, that looseness that allows my brain to more easily interpret hellish things. You know, like, you play a game like Outlast and you see this big HD crystal clear pile of wrinkles, and I don't know, it never really did anything for me. Yet that low poly gray goblin grabbing at my dick in Silent Hill 1, like, why do I find this scary but not at all this? I think it's because I look at this and, you know, I see it exactly as it is. It's just a wrinkly man. It didn't leave any space in my brain to really wonder about anything. Oh, he's in a wheelchair and he's in the mental asylum and there's messed up things happening here. You know, I just connect the dots and that's kind of it. But that cat, it is so much harder to take something clear from it, so all I can think of are questions, like, did it used to look more like me? How did it become like this, if that's the case, and what happens if it gets me? Like, what does it getting me and turning me into static mean in the context of the world? Like, am I dead, or is this something different? I don't know. More and more questions arise as you progress and take in more of the visuals. Perhaps it's the most decayed of people being chosen to blindly enforce the machine's will? With the right thematic nudges of dialogue and scenery, a good horror game can steer your interpretation, convey something that may be too broad or perhaps too sickening for words. It's one of the ways that we discover how to talk about things that we really don't know how to talk about, by conveying feelings in an indirect way. The crude depiction of industrialization, for example, that can often be interpreted as a distaste for the working machine, so to say. The big guys that do everything they want and use all their power to convince us that nothing they're doing is wrong, as they tear up our homes and turn it into an ugly financial womb. To them, we are just the cum that breeds their wealth. And I would be lying a little bit if I didn't say I related to these feelings in a weird way, you know, like, you might have noticed that I've never really done sponsorships in this channel. Not that there's anything at all wrong with sponsorships, that's not the point I'm making here, but, you know, I just have this right here because I'm just not at the moment. I don't need the extra money, so I'd rather not if I don't. It helps make the videos age a bit better is all.
Funnily enough, though, putting that phrase right beside where you find my email, it has never once, ever stopped the torrential downpour of skeezy emails I get every week, trying to get me to shill these predatory products and services to people just trying to watch a freaking game review. It's like, you see how much dogfighting there is over this stuff in your own inbox over the years. You really start to internalize how much money is being spent on getting people to repeat the name of some obnoxious mobile game over and over, or the fortune being spent on getting influencers to sucker people into buying an NFT or some shit like that. It's like, you see that day in and day out, and it's just like, oh, I see where I am in all of this. I'm YouTube, man. I'm the influencer. They treat you like you're nothing but a cog between those two things, and you're just, I don't know, you're just kind of left with all these weird feelings of contempt after a while.
It's that omnipresent feeling that your entire existence is but a cog in a gigantic, terrifying machine that you'll never make any sense of. In Cat World, it's a lot more extreme and literal, but in the grand scheme of things, I do often think about where I really am in all of this, if that makes any sense. It's a big, confusing mess of feelings towards extremely complicated things, and sometimes we don't always know how to find the words to properly describe why we feel the way we do. Sometimes we don't even know enough about the world to even make a proper critique of these things that are bothering us. I mean, I sure don't. But we can take those feelings and turn it into something that will make sense to the right person. And hey, that's art. To take an idea and convey it using any medium you want in any way you want. And in doing that, it might not click with everybody, but it sure as hell will be for the people it's for, you know? Like, I don't expect this thing to mean much to everyone. I mean, you might just see a needlessly depressing game with annoying stealth mechanics. But if you're anything like me and your tastes are a weird blend of old horror games and 3D platformers, you just might find something really freaking cool here. If you'd like to play the game for yourself, it's up on Desktop Trash's itch.io. I'll put a link down below in the description if you want to check that out. And hey, while you're there, why don't you try and see if you can find something else interesting too? I mean, itch is a goldmine for cool, weird, tailored experiences. If you look long enough, you will find something that feels just for you. And if you ask me, I think that's what games should really be about. Instead of only trying to create these super experiences with broad, generally pleasing gameplay, I would prefer to see many more weirder experiences that could mean more to less people. I always see people arguing over how a game should be like, but I think that instead of trying to figure out how to make the one perfect game, we should be working towards creating every version of every different experience. I mean, as a human species, we only have all of time to do that, right? We're not even 50 years into the game industry. What will 100 years look like? 500 years? It better not look like Horizon Arkham Creed 723 is all I'm saying.
But as long as the machine is only interested in selling as many copies as physically possible, that machine's only ever gonna care about, like, kinda pleasing everybody. And that's how you get a lot less room for those more interesting and unique experiences that are going to stick with people a lot longer than the latest Assassin's Creed or the last season of Fortnite. But what Cat World won't tell you about is the perseverance of the artistic individual. This idea that, well, maybe we don't need that big machine to make these things because we are able, and we can. But the game doesn't need to say that. The creator already did just by making it.
Hey, welcome to the Cool Kids End Slate. This is where the cool kids hang out. You're never gonna see a kid around here who ain't cool. Hey, you're here. That means you gotta be cool, right? And if you'd like to support the show, we got a $1 podcast up on patreon.com. My dick is pooping and farting and pissing and shitting.